Welcome to the Coastal Athlete Program, presented by Apex Predator Athletics. Train today, survive tomorrow. Now, live from the shores of Monterey Bay, here's your host, Shep.
Welcome back to the Coastal Athlete Program. After a long, short time away, I am very excited to announce that we are back on the air. Today I am joined by a friend to you and me, a man known by many names in many places, a man who is seen sliding all over Southern California. Not as much of him as there was the last time we were on the air. Not to spoil the punch here, but a man who's lost a considerable amount of weight, future Olympian, facilitator to the great Jose Martinez. Ladies and gentlemen, I introduce to you the one, the only, the Beach Yeti, the Chicken Joe of SoCal, Joe Jackson.
I'll say Paralympian. I don't know if we would be considered Olympians, but I know we'd be considered Paralympians if surfing ever hits the Paralympics, which we're hoping maybe next year. Do you know this year's was only an exhibition? Did you know that 2020 Surf Games in Tokyo was technically the first year, so it was considered an exhibition year, but all the medals count and it's like a real thing, but not a lot of people know that. Next year's
still giving golds, right?
They still gave golds and they still count as gold medals, but technically I think Paris is going to be the first time that surfing's like an official event or something. It's weird how that process happens to get new sports into the Olympics. I don't know.
How is that going to work? How are you going to surf in Paris? Are you guys going to have to do like a wave pool or something?
I don't know what they plan on doing for the surfing because we'll have Paralympics has the same venues as the able-bodied Olympics. So wherever the Olympics surf, we'll surf as well. They didn't do the wave pool in Japan, so there's a chance that, France has amazing waves. They're just nowhere near Paris. How far away was the Japan from surf site from Tokyo? That was probably a ways away, wasn't it?
I didn't even think about that.
I thought for some reason the competitors, besides the opening and closing games, the surfing competitors really weren't around the Olympic Village because they were always on site for the beach, and they had accommodations down there by the beach and had like a whole venue set up down there to keep them.
Well, my guess is that would put you on the west coast of France, right? Like maybe in the Biarritz area. That there are worse places in the world you could be sent. So how will that work? Will you have to pay your own way to go to that? Will you guys as a whole team pay that? Or is there a stipend from the Olympic Committee?
I was hoping there's enough pause around that. Sorry.
No, you're good.
The process for us, if Jose and I qualify for the Paralympic surf team, USA surf team, which there's a good chance, and that they actually hold an exhibition contest at the Paralympic Games in Paris for surfing, most likely that gets covered by the IOC, the Olympic Committee here in the U.S. We would just be, from what I understand, they take care of the accommodations and a lot of that. Our things that will fall back on us, though, is going to be like individual specific equipment. Most likely there's not going to be like a set wetsuit I have to wear. I'll probably be able to wear whatever I want to wear and what I'm used to wearing and what adapts best for me, because not a lot of people know some wetsuits are better for body surfing and some are horrible for body surfing. I think Shep's learned some of this.
Yeah, we know that very, very well, don't we, Joe?
Briefly, like chest zips can fill up on the back because the way the flap comes over and it slows you down body surfing. So for me, I like my back zips.
Or taking pictures, by the way, as I've learned.
Yes.
A wave running over your back can also turn into a reverse anchor if you have your chest zip not buttoned up right.
Yeah, and I imagine water is probably shot down your back pretty cold and just like, whoop, and like sunk you down pretty well too.
Oh yeah. Long term, right? Like that extra water that gets in the wetsuit, once it gets warm, it just makes you more buoyant, makes you a little more comfortable. But that initial rush, I guess you could call it invigorating.
Like Wim Hof invigorating, maybe for you, because you have a lot of what I call crowd control in your area, and that's called cold water.
Well, it's especially lately. I mean, we just had this huge storm roll through Santa Cruz, which was great. But the thing is it happened, like we had this massive storm, quote unquote, hit California. It was big for most of California. Santa Cruz got it relatively like easy, all things considered. You know what I'm saying? Like we were projected to be getting feet of rain. We got a few inches, which is great. Don't get me wrong, I'm not complaining, but it was disgusting. I went out surfing with some dudes and was taking some pictures when the rain first started, and I got out at the point or at the hook, right? And you know how there's that giant, we used to call it a dick. I guess we probably shouldn't call it that anymore, but you know, a pipe that feeds off of the street. And when I tell you it was shooting out black water, I mean it was like literally black, like, and murky water that as it was hitting and mixing with the seawater, you could like see where it was like mixing in and stuff.
And was this like shooting out of this like sewer pipe basically?
Pretty much,
Yeah.
because there was, yeah. So long
It
story
sounds
short,
bad.
we got like a bit of a red tide, yeah, and
Yeah.
there was definitely, I wanted to go out and take more pictures and surf more, but like once you have a storm like that, then it gets really hot for 3 or 4 days. You know this, Joe. Longtime listeners of the show know this. That's going to stimulate those dinoflagellates, those micro algae to photosynthesize and create red tides. And ugh,
Basically,
the water was disgusting, but it's beautiful now.
yeah, flood the water with like nitrogen and a bunch of other disgusting matter, as we'll describe it, that ends up in the water.
You know, typical, like this is actually a really great example of back in the day we used to talk a lot about watersheds and how you have to not only consider what's happening around you in like the localized beach area, but what's also happening inland. When they get a massive dump of water inland over the next few days, all the topsoil and all the runoff from the Central Valley is slowly making its way out to the coast. So it's like really important for surfers. If you're not feeling well, there could be a reason for that. And if you haven't been surfing for several months, that is not the time to go out.
Yes.
For so many reasons.
Like for us, I strategized. We only got about a third inch of rain down here, but I went to 2 spots that had lower flow for that outflow for us down here. I strategized where I was going and just tried to mitigate my risk each time. But yeah, you definitely have to watch it. And I know for us, it's about a 1/4 inch to a third of an inch starts getting to the point where we won't go get in the water for 72 hours afterwards. This time, I think I waited like 48 hours, but I went somewhere that didn't have a ton of rain. And I also, the nice thing with the NOAA maps is they show rivers and lakes on there usually, at least bigger ones than watersheds. So generally you can figure out if there's a lot of watershed right where you're surfing at, it's probably gonna be pretty gross water. I just find one that's not as lengthy or as wide, and just maybe mitigate my risk a little bit less, but it's not much.
Or get north of the mouth of wherever that feed is. That's another good way to negate
if it's a
it,
north,
depending on how that.
For us, yes, if it's a northwest swell. If it's a south swell, you want to be on the south side of it.
Fair enough. Yeah, you just want to get ahead or upstream, quote unquote, of wherever that stuff is coming out.
Yeah, and staying away from it. Ideally, yeah, because that stuff, you get really nasty infections. There's been surfers that have been hospitalized with like staphylococcal infections throughout their whole body, and yeah, it's disgusting stuff. So kind of got to be careful.
I definitely felt it that night laying on the couch. I was like, my eyes feel a little extra crusty, and I was like, oh,
that's when
not so good. I went out surfing the next day. I was fine. So like, yeah. I also went out in the quote unquote red tide, but I'd be lying if I said it didn't smell.
Do you want to hear my little secret I do after I do those sessions?
I think I know what it is, but you need to tell the audience.
So I do a couple little things. The first thing is I get a tall boy of Coca-Cola, and that's the red can Coca-Cola.
Coke
I get
Classic.
The cans classic, and it's got to be in the can because it's more acidic, or you got to get a big glass bottle of it. But get the full leaded Coke and just chug that thing. The idea behind that is there's supposedly enough acid in that to hopefully kill off a lot of the bad pathogens in your gut if you had swallowed any water or got any inside your gut, hopefully. I just like drinking Coke, so any reason I can have an excuse to go drink them, I'll do that. I also use Dawn dish soap right when I get out with super hot water. That's another little secret.
You drink Dawn dish soap?
No, we're not going to.
I just wanted to clarify because you were just talking about slamming a tall boy.
Fair enough. You got a point there. No, when I get home and I'm showering up, I like physically clean myself with like Dawn dish soap sometimes if it's bad. Like if I know it's like stinky like you're talking about, I use a little Dawn dish soap. I'd probably get one really hot shower and then probably I'd take a second one with just normal stuff, like what I use every day, and then just hopefully hope I don't get sick. Also, rinsing out your ears really well and your sinuses if possible. That's a big factor that helps. Do you do anything else, Chip?
No.
You're
I,
like, I don't
honestly,
even do half of those.
typically, like the best way to keep yourself from getting exposed to it is to just not go, right? So that, like, I try to make that assessment. For example, if you get out at your usual parking spot and the ocean smells particularly pungent, and everyone listening right now who's ever been close to a red tide knows exactly what I'm talking about, you know whether or not that water is going to potentially be gross. Now, like, I'm not going to lie, I knew when I went surfing on a rain day that I was kind of dancing with the gods there, right? Part of me was building up my immune resistance, right? I wanted to go out, get that exposure. But the other side of it was like I was trying to get on the high side of the rain, knowing it was going to rain for several days. And I kind of figured, I guess I'll take my chances here. I'm not going to lie. I really wanted to take pictures in the rain. And it was cool and it was spooky. And like, I don't know.
Did you get some good shots?
Gross, but no, not at all.
I'm sorry.
It's all good.
Sounds like a learning experience.
Good. Yeah, I mean, surf photography, dude. It's like it's basically like being a baseball player. It feels like you take 6,000 shots and you're stoked if you get 10 keepers.
Yeah.
So,
and if one gets picked up, you're doing good.
Yeah, and you know, it's. I think that especially like as I'm getting more experienced and learning how to like take the shots that I want to take, I take more risks, and when you take more risks, you just have a lower strike rate. So.
Yeah,
but yeah, man. Well, that's something that's definitely changed since the last time we were on the air.
Yeah,
after like years of me fawning over photographers, I like decided to get into it myself out there.
So I was gonna say, should we do updates now? Because we did a little teaser of some updates that we have.
Yeah, let's catch the audience up. I mean, first of all, thank you to everybody who's listening right now. I know that we took a nice long break, and just so that everybody knows, like we're gonna go back and finish up with KLA. It's not a question of wanting to get those interviews done, but for me personally, I've got a lot going on between my work life and my personal life, trying to like handle interviews on a 3-hour time difference, consistently making like 4 or 5 different schedules work. It was very difficult to maintain. Don't worry, we're going to finish it. But for now, we want to get back on the air. So, Joe, how have you been? What have you been up to?
I have been well. I'm trying to even think when we had last spoken. I think it was when last year before I had even moved, because I moved down to Imperial Beach where I can see Mexico from my fucking kitchen. I probably shouldn't be cussing. I can see Mexico from my kitchen.
We're past 5 minutes, or we're past 10 minutes. You can say whatever you want. Nobody's listening.
Oh, fair enough. I'm good. The algorithm hasn't caught up yet. Good to know. Yeah, but I've moved. So there's been a lot of different things going on for me. Some of the things I've kind of been optimizing is Jose. I've been joking. Jose's been keeping me honest in the water and not just pushing my limits, but getting me to the point where I have to start lifting and staying in shape and moving regularly. So I've incorporated some different lifestyle changes that have been beneficial. Did some
training with friend of the show.
Oh,
right?
Yes, that's true. I let's see, 2 or 3 times has she been on the show? I can't remember.
I think 3 times.
I thought it was
2,
3.
possibly 3.
Yeah, I know of 2, but I thought there was a third for some reason. But yes, I am now training with Ellen. I started training with Ellen back in, I think, May or so. And I pitched it to my wife that I would give up half of my 7-Eleven habit, and I would also sell some things like surfboards and random hoarding things that I hold on to. If you ever see the video of this, you'll see what's behind me right now, and you'll start laughing because you'll get what I'm talking about.
It's a highly organized level of like that's super organized, Joe. For you, that's the least number of things I've ever seen on that rack.
I'm surprised, but I'm actually using like half of it for like work stuff. So I was doing like fin templates things, and people that are listening to that, I basically have a section of stainless steel wire rack that I kind of made a workbench. And one of the things that's been coming up and I've been working on with One More Wave is a single surfboard fin. So I got some templates and some fun stuff that we're working on there. But yeah, we're looking at doing
Well,
it.
wait, hold up. We got to back up there real quick
Yeah.
because you started working for One More Wave, as did I.
Well, I thought I had was already working for One More Wave last time we talked. That's what I was thinking.
You were definitely with One More Wave, but like you became like a full on employee, right?
I guess so. I guess it's been that long. Yeah, because
If it was last year,
I think I had a 6 month period where technically I told them I wanted to work without being paid just to make sure this is something I can do and stand, and which I think is very wise in the nonprofit field. Go work for your nonprofit or go volunteer for your nonprofit you want to work for 6 months, and you'll know for sure if that's something you want to stick around for or if you might want to go check other things out. But yeah, that's true. So started, I guess, official paid in December of last year. I thought it was December
nice.
19, but I guess it was maybe December 20. So I don't know. I lose track of time.
Well, that 2020 year kind of like was weird for
I
all of us.
I think it was 19 I technically started, but yeah, 2020 was just rough for everyone. And then when did you come on to One More Wave Chef? Because now you're working for
January
us. Okay.
officially, yeah,
Yeah.
2021. So yeah, I had my pieces come out for OAF. I did some interviews for both this and Pitch by Pitch. Posey's letting us know that our lunch is being delivered. Just give her 1 second to get settled.
I get that. I get
um,
that. Tuxter's doing well. So you need to he's doing well. I get dogs. I'm glad that Poznose is still doing well and checking things out for you guys and taking care of things.
oh my god! Real quick aside on Posey, she ended up in the hospital. She spent a night and like away from us in the at the doggy emergency room. What an experience for everybody listening at home. If you have an animal that you like maintain and care for, you gotta get pet insurance. Oh my god,
Yes.
it was such a lifesaver for us to have them step up and take over 90% of the cost of the emergency care that she needed. Whew.
Yes.
Anyway, yeah, I was doing some stuff with One More Wave before the year turned over, but starting in January, I also came onto the payroll and took on the role of creative director, and I've also been helping out with marketing and some other elements of kind of the back of house like growth concept stuff, I guess you could call it. I started the blog Salt Speak, which we have slowed down on publishing significantly, but we produced some pretty awesome pieces over a nice 6 month run there. And yeah, I actually ended up leaving the school. Like I really loved being there, but I think that the pandemic year made it really clear to me that like that wasn't going to be a long-term opportunity, that no matter what, like I wasn't going to become a full-on member of the faculty. And yeah, man, I'm up in my late 30s now. I have to make smart career decisions. You know what I'm saying? And
I
I
like
haven't
it.
looked back. It's been great because One More Wave has been. It was one thing to like see the organization from a rider perspective and kind of have that experience, but to now be a part of behind the scenes and to like be in the meetings and get to see things like right now you're developing that fin, which I would love for us to talk about on a different episode. We can like really go deep on the design and the
Yep.
history and everything like that. But
That would
you
probably
know,
be a half-hour conversation, and I got some notes already written for that. But yeah, I didn't
at
want to go too
least
deep in the fin, but I did want to tease it.
totally. And like you're wearing a hat right now that I got to help be a part of the design process during our collaboration with Lids. We've worked with Combat Flip Flops. Like it's been incredibly exciting and to get to come to it. Yeah, Joe's got the whole kit ready to go. And to get to like really commit to the veteran surf therapy movement and to really kind of understand what it means specifically for what we do at Wave, like in terms of developing that equipment and providing that community to riders. It's just been really special. I mean, I think that, I don't know, I don't want to speak for Joe. I feel like we're really lucky to be in that position.
I do feel very blessed and very lucky to be able to work part of the organization and to have the impact that I'm able to have. And, like this morning, be able to go out with a few riders and just go out and have some fun and take people to different surf spots that they probably normally wouldn't go to. But since I'm there and another buddy are there, they'll paddle out with us and, we'll go get in people's way and say sorry a lot and laugh everything off and, just go out and have fun. That's what it's
And
about.
I love the fact that I get to go out and be in the surf and be a part of community and share stoke and tell stories.
And
It's just awesome,
and you
man.
get to tell stories in a different way because that's something we probably have to cover for you. We've talked a little bit about, but you've dove headfirst into photography, and not just water photography and surf photography that you're shooting in water for, but you're also doing some drone stuff too now, aren't you?
Doing some drone stuff, got my Part 107 certification, so I'm all officially registered with the FAA and stuff. So if you like any of my drone work, you can buy it. But
That's not a shameless plug.
No, not at all. Yeah, I think that I really enjoyed photography as a side piece to my writing when I was working for the school, and then the more I was there, the more I kind of realized people are going to be more likely to go through the picture experience than go through the reading experience. And so, like, as I've kind of been continuing to develop both skills together, I don't know, like you know this, Joe, virtually every time we go out surfing, like there's something really beautiful or special or magical that happens, be that like with a rider or with nature or with an animal that's like around you, be it a bird or something like that, or a seal or something. There's all these incredible special moments, and like to be able to take those and bring them out to people is cool. And also selfishly, because the equipment is not cheap to buy and maintain, occasionally I can sell a picture or two, and that's also nice. or a few. Actually, I haven't had a chance to tell you, but I got hired by a wearable tech brand. I'm going to be doing some content shooting for them out in the
Nice.
surf, and
Rad.
yeah. So between that, one more wave, and then continuing to do freelance journalism, I just sold a story to Santa Cruz Waves about Jose and Claudio that I'm going to write while we're at the Big Wave contest in a couple of weeks. Super pumped for that.
Yeah, and that'll be
And
November 10th through
yeah,
the 14th in Santa Cruz at the
10th through the
lane.
14th.
Yeah, it's gonna be exciting. It's gonna be fun.
It's going to
part
be
of
popping.
that's part of the reason that I feel so blessed to be circling back to Ellen, working with her, because man, it's she's gotten my strength game up for me, and it's not that you didn't get me anywhere, Shep. You were one of the few coaches that I really appreciated working with because you respected the fact that I did not want to get hurt, and that was a number one priority. And I feel like she does the same thing. She also understands, like, all right, some weeks I surf 3 to 5 times. That can be very taxing if you're trying to add weightlifting into it. So, it's a lot of fun and I'm getting a lot out of it to the point where Jose and I have qualified for the national team. So we're technically named members of the USA surf team now, which is really cool. Now they have a Paris surf team for the USA surfing organization. So not a lot of people know USA surfing is one of the few surf kind of country ran like surf organizations that's ran as a nonprofit. Most other countries run theirs as a government organization. Not a lot of people know that, so it's kind of makes for interesting funding and fundraising.
I bet. And before we get too far to like what you've been doing as a facilitator in the adaptive surf space, just to give you full credit, you're in a very different place athletically now than you ever were during the times when you and I were able to like actually work together in person. And that's a large credit to all the work that you've done through various programs, through various treatment cycles. Like, I mean, for people listening at home, Joe has lost like I don't know, 35 pounds. He's completely changed his body fat
I
percentage.
I
Like
think
he
I'm
looks like a different person.
I think I'm like 205 or 210 right now, but I'm also bulking up for winter and I don't want to be cold. I told Ellen that the other day. She was laughing at me. I go, no, I'm eating sweet potatoes and rice
That's
because
a very real
I
thing.
don't want to be cold this winter. And that's a very likely thing. I'm going to be cold a lot. And I just don't like that. My body neurologically does not react well sometimes to the cold.
I've been growing my beard out, and I told Des, I was like, straight up, I'm really sorry, but if I'm gonna be in 52-degree water with like just my face showing, as much of it needs to have hair on it as possible.
It's great sunscreen too.
Well, that too. That part doesn't hurt. Are you excited for the lane this year? Are you guys nervous?
Um, a little bit of both. Last year we is very special. I think it was the first time in 25 years that a contest had 12-foot conditions, consistent 12-foot conditions out. Had some occasional bigger bombs that would sneak through every once in a while. I don't think anyone ever got any of those, but it was quite the competition we had last year. And even the following day was 6 to 8 foot, occasional 10 footers will sneak through. So, that was pretty sizable last year. I'll be really happy if we can get 4 to 6 foot. If it's anything between that and 9 and 11, it will be fun. If it's anything over 11 foot, I expect to be working our butts off. I'll be swimming a lot.
Well, so what's the word on ski support this year? Because
Yes,
like
we'll have ski support.
that was something last year that was a big problem, I thought.
Ski support is supposed to get leveled up this next year. We evidently, if the harbor cannot spare a ski with a certified operator, another organization will most likely roger up a piece of equipment and an operator for us to shuttle people back and forth from Cowles Beach all the way out to the lane. And then we're supposed to get the same support in the water from Santa Cruz lifeguards that we got last year, 2 skis with 2 swimmers, and they can rotate in and out if anyone ends up on the rocks. But if they're not in the rocks, they're really not going to pick people out of there unless they need rescuing.
Well, I bring this up because last year, like, and we've talked about this before, and I've been pretty open about saying this, so I don't feel like I'm saying anything out of turn by putting this in the public forum. But it was hard for the spectators to follow what was happening because they would announce the heat is starting, and then an hour later they would make the exact same announcement again, and then 30 minutes after that they would make the announcement again, but it would actually start. And so I understand that was in large part because you guys had to go in at Cowles and then take the 35-minute paddle out, by the way, which is way harder the bigger it is, and it was big those days.
Yes.
Did you guys really have to use all your energy just getting to the heat both times, like in and out? And is there a way to protect that from happening again?
What we actually ended up doing is Ryan and Darren ended up kicking Jose around, and I jumped off the point. I've jumped off the point most of my life, so I feel pretty comfortable doing that.
I do remember that. We walked out together.
So yeah, I'm comfortable going off the point. I was fine with that. That was also to save my energy to help just push and only push, and to go swim in and help kick him around once the heat started, because I knew those guys were going to be such a debt for Jose to get out to the contest, but also to get him back in. They were trying to push him in as many waves as they could, but there was only so many waves you can catch in the Cowles for him. And even at that day, I mean, it was still probably a 45-minute kick back that those two pushed him back. I think I swam back every time, though, because I was just so exhausted to be able to get out.
Just to clarify for everybody, this means that you guys were spending anywhere from 2.5 to 3.5 hours, it felt like, in the water straight in big waves.
The first day was 4.5 hours. The second day was 3.5 hours. So we spent a lot of time in the water, and that was straight. There was no water breaks. I didn't have anyone bring out any food. I have a food and water strategy for next time, but yeah, you just went out there and just sent it. It was rough.
What does that look like? Because obviously, look, and this is for everybody listening at home. Joe, I was covering the event for a couple different places. Joe, it was hard on everybody, right? It was a hard weekend. What was your number one takeaway? Was it like water and food next time? Like what's going to be different this time for you?
The number one thing I learned is don't wear a fucking impact suit. Only wear a chest piece. The legs on the impact suits put your legs in a cramped position. So that was fucking miserable on the first day. Other than that,
for the people listening at home, impact suits have like massive extra padding right around, like below the hip bone, but above the knee. Right? Yeah. So it was just putting you in a weird float position the whole time?
Yeah, it put me in like a flex position, like a knee was at my chest kind of all the time. Or my ankles were up for some weird reason, and like I was in I'd get hamstring cramps a lot, basically. It was like my hamstrings were always having to work to fight the suit, basically. And a chest piece that wasn't
ducks or yuccas that day? Do you remember?
I think that one I started in UDTs, and then I ended up going back to Viper V7s, but I was undergunned in V7s. I'm stronger this year, so I would probably be able to hold UDTs, but I also have a modified set of UDTs now that are going to be a little easier on me. But yeah, you got to wear ankle breakers out on big days like that, because it's hard to you got to get the surfer up to the correct speed. And when the waves are actually bigger, they are faster. They break slower in a weird way. I don't know how to describe it that way, but yeah, the wave itself.
They stall a little bit more.
you have more time to
How's
react on your board, is what I've learned.
Okay.
When it's like 2 to 3 foot, you have to tuck up, and get real tucked in to get barreled real quick, like in a snap of a finger. In an overhead day, you can pop up, stop, turn, come up, stall, look, and then just get shacked. And literally in that about that kind of pace. So it's a much different, lengthier pace. And also what that means is that bigger wave is breaking farther out, and it's also coming at a higher velocity. So I have to have Jose moving faster already, on top of trying to get him in the right position so he's not too late or behind, because you can't come from behind at the lane.
Yeah, and I've written about this, but like the lane, because of the way the reef is set up, if there is not enough water there, then it only flows in one direction, which is forward and over the reef, as opposed to like most breaks where you can usually find eddies here and there. It can get pretty dicey out there.
Yeah, it definitely can. I don't think Jose got picked out last year. I know a couple guys did. There was once Jose almost got picked out, but Darren got in there really quickly. Darren did a lot of pushing too the first day. He did a lot of work, so he was instrumental. Ryan also chased Jose down a ton. I mean, I really needed those two guys out there for me to facilitate what I could do with Jose too. That was the other thing.
Who's your second chaser this year if Ryan can't be there?
We haven't exactly got that dialed in yet. We'll kind of play it by ear. We may stick Darren on a board, and Darren surfs after Jose and then just pushes him back around on a surfboard while paddling. Kind of, I don't want to call it the Jesse, but we joke that's the old Jesse move. Because Jesse's pushers are such good surfers that they can surf with Jesse, surf behind him, and then paddle him back
Jesse
out by
who?
pushing. Jesse Billauer. He's multi-time world champion, USA champion, or U.S. Open champion, United States national champion. So yeah, he's the OG of the adaptive, specifically the prone assist category in the adaptive.
And the reigning champion from the last contest, right?
That's the U.S. Open, yes.
Oh, okay, yeah. Which was in Oceanside.
Yeah, technically he won nationals this year, so he's national champion, and he won worlds last year, so he's world champion.
There you go. Jesse. So we have reigning champion.
Yes, reigning. He's held the crown quite a while. He's really an amazing guy. Has an amazing surf past, and really has just this eye that's really hard to beat when he's in the water. So it's fun.
Can I ask you a couple questions about like what happened at nationals?
At the U.S. Open of surfing that you were at?
Yes. In Oceanside back in September?
Yes.
Okay, so for people listening at home, the quick rundown is this, right? It's a 3 or 4 day event that ended up being 3 days, right? Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Thursday ended up being a clinic day, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
And long story short, the north side of the pier, correct, that we were on?
Yes, Oceanside Pier. We were at Oceanside Pier, yep. And we were mostly on the north side. It's where all the competition was.
Which I learned the Oceanside Pier burned down, and rather than like remove the rubble, they just built a new one to the side of it. So there were all these weird pockets of water. You basically had a push from south to north happening. Like you could see the eddies underneath the pier throughout competition. So you had all these conflicting like directions of water plus wind. Yeah. Long story short, the best conditions of the entire weekend were Thursday night when we went out as a group, I think.
Yes, it was.
I don't know how you feel about that.
Thursday night was the primo night of that contest, and a lot of us had a lot of fun that night. But yeah, that was really the ideal conditions, and the conditions just deteriorated through the weekend. Technically, they got bigger, but they did not get cleaner. Our wind wasn't working with us, and the tides were making it tough. Like finals was rough. That was just rough conditions. The guys that got first and second were the guys that got the only real set wave that came through. So if that tells you anything, wave selection's a big part of it. We just weren't in the positions to fight people for the right wave. So,
but I wanted to ask, because you guys, if the event had ended in the semifinals, I feel like Jose had a very good chance to win because he had a really dominant wave there. However, you guys kind of got skunked in the finals in terms of, like you said, there was only 2 set waves, I think, in the whole session, right? Yeah. In a 20-minute session. How much, like, first of all, how frustrating was that for you and Jose? And secondarily, like, is there anything you learned from that, or is that just the way it is?
That is the way she goes, no doubt. We learned a lot from it, and we were crushed by it. We were just like, we we looked at it. We looked at it as we learned that next time we're not going to sit close on the inside of the pier. We're just going to sit out wherever Jesse's out. We're just not going to be farther out with Jesse. And next time we're just going to out kick him to the spot next time and just out get him on the spot. Um, that was one thing I was playing safe on because he's pulled some moves in the past that could have compromised us. So I try not to open him up to getting us in a way. And that is like doing maneuvers where he has a higher priority or he's in a better position. So he has the priority of the wave. When the heat starts, nobody has priority. So it's whoever catches it first. But from there, you kind of fall on basic surf etiquette. So if somebody's on the peak, you can't just go in front of them and take their wave. So even though there isn't a priority. So that was why we ended up not getting that first set wave. We were playing the game of trying to get something else that came through and nothing else just came through for us. A
But
couple, go ahead.
sorry, as a person who's participated in sports that have ways to score and sports that rely on judging, I know that it can be incredibly frustrating. One thing that was heard on the beach, I overheard, not just in the prone division, but across everyone who competed that weekend, was that it did feel like the judging was sometimes prioritizing length of ride over the technical level of the ride, and that there was some debate amongst the riders as to whether or not that was fair. How frequently as a competitor do you feel like you're put up against inconsistent judging, and how easy is it, or not easy, but like how precise do you feel you can be in terms of like, this is the number of maneuvers we have to execute on this number of waves over this distance, or is it more of just a crapshoot?
I think the judging was absolutely spot on and consistent. I don't think those competitors were used to that judging, to be frank. Um, they were absolutely rewarding length of ride. It was mainly because a lot of people weren't respecting the fact that in Oceanside there's an outside, a no man's land, and an inside, and the judges were rewarding getting through no man's land and reading that well to catch the wave on the inside. So even if you didn't do as big of a cutback or a big of a turn or as big of maneuvers, but your wave was 4 times longer, the judges were going to reward that. Some competitors did not agree with that because there are other contests that if you did a bigger turn through that, you might end up getting in a more critical part of the wave on a bigger wave, even if it wasn't as long of a wave, even if because you made that critical position maneuver in the critical position at a critical time, that gets highly rewarded. And some people, that's what they go for. They mainly go for one, maybe two maneuvers and just absolutely explode those and just get high scores from that. And I think that's what the scoring they wanted, and that's what they were complaining about. So for me, I get a pretty good handle within prelims of how the judges are going to be because judging's pretty narrow in a sense. They're either going to go for the big maneuvers and take the bigger waves with the critical maneuvers, or they're going to go for length of ride, and as big of a wave may not matter if it's 4 times as long, like you're on the wave doing as 4 times as long, like moving down the line. So also too with judging, there's the factor that most categories are judged pretty evenly, but they're all being judged off the ability they can do. I say that in the sense of Jose may not get as big of a score as somebody else for doing the same thing on the same wave because Jose has the core stability and maneuverability to actually move his core and his what's left of his leg around, where some other people maybe quads and barely have much movement chest down. So I still think they're being judged to their potential, the surfer's potential, which I'm okay with. I haven't complained about that because if you're trying to judge them all on a fair playing field, it's still not fair. So I think it's what the judges do. They do a very fair job for how hard it is to catch all the nuances of all the different categories and all the different surfers to make sure it's a fair, judgment of the surfing. Did you expect that
I got
answer?
to tell you, Joe, I mean, that was the most diplomatic answer I've ever heard. I think that was, first of all, answered like a true competitor. I think being complimentary of the judges and recognizing that they have an impossibly difficult task is always going to resonate with them. So good for you on that. My
Thank you.
follow-up question would be this. I have a two-part question, okay? The first part is the same group of judges consistent through an entire contest? Like, are the same three people there for prelims, all the prelims, as well as the day of
Yes,
finals? And
normally
then the
they are.
secondary question. Okay,
Yes,
perfect.
normally they
Secondary
are.
question: how frequently are judges reused at different contests?
I think it's based off the area. Like the judges we have down here are usually most of the judges we're going to see, whether they're at a WSA contest, the actual ISA contest. There are some judges from other areas that will come to the bigger contest here, so I'm used to their judging. Like the judging that's done at the WSA contest down here is going to be different than what they do at the Hawaiian National Championships or at ISAs. It's all going to be a little bit different, but for the most part, I think it's a core group of judges. I think we consistently get a mix of them down here that is pretty consistent for us, and we have enough experience at other contests to kind of have an idea of what to expect at some of those.
So, when it comes to like Santa Cruz, do you think you'll have the same judges as last year?
Possibly, yeah. I think we may have a few changes, but we'll have pretty similar. ASL is almost consistently the same judges, and that's just because it's ASL. It's the Adaptive Surf League. It's kind of the World Surf League of the adaptive or para surf community, and it's kind of the professional levels what they're trying to make it to be. So they're getting there.
How much bigger? How much bigger do you think this year's event will be than last year's? Because last year's, like, I think we all agreed, was capped by the fact that a lot of people just couldn't travel.
I think there was that. I I'm going to guess probably an extra dozen competitors. I don't know if there'll be twice as many. I'm going to guess there was what 30 last year.
Something like that, spread out across four divisions,
Yeah, so I'm
I
going to
think.
guess no more than 50 this year, but I wouldn't expect 75. It'll be between 75 and 50, I hope. There are some folks like the Florida man supposedly is coming, so it's going to be exciting to see some guys that
Carter
normally
Hess,
normally
future
don't
guest of the show.
yeah, normally don't come out to that contest will be there. So, we'll see. There'll be some regulars that would be at Worlds that won't go to the ASL contest, but that's for safety reasons, and it makes sense. They would need a very large, substantial support crew to make sure that they'd be safe in the water.
And then Worlds is like 3 weeks later, right?
Yes, Worlds. So Santa Cruz is November 10th through 14th, and then December 6th, I think, is opening ceremony, or the 7th is opening ceremony, and then the 11th is closing day for the ISA Paris Surfing World Championships. So, and those have big implications this year because whoever does well there has the chance to go to Pan Am Games, possibly for para surfing. Don't know where that
Where are
is or when
those?
that is. I don't know, but
Uh,
supposedly we have a chance if we do well at Worlds, we could get into Pan Ams, which I think matters for the Paralympics.
well, the Coastal Athlete Program is going to be at both the ASL event in November as well as the Para Worlds in December. So we'll be on the scene doing interviews. I did just sell a story this morning to Santa Cruz Waves. Very excited to get like a nice 700 to 800 words in their publication. As I said to my wife, once that publication releases, I will have officially completed the Infinity Gauntlet of having words. If let me, I don't want to put my chickens before they hatch. If I also sell them a couple of photographs, then I will have completed the Infinity Gauntlet of every publication in Santa Cruz County, which was kind of a small goal that I set for myself a few years ago.
I'm hopeful we get it. Hopeful.
I I actually wanted your feedback on something. So like part of getting ready for this event is trying to sell stories to like different outlets and be like, hey, maybe you can hire me to go live on your, social media channel to do an interview with one of the contestants or something like that. I'm finding that like there are a lot of walled gardens in the surfing space. Why are there so many subscription service based platforms when it comes to media?
For surfing,
Yeah.
because surfing has a horrible business model, so you can't make any money working at a surf shop or building surf equipment. So you have to, the most money you'll make if you're going to work in the surf world is going to be through media and advertising. So that's where the money is. So that's why they have to monetize it that way.
I just think
Is
that
that
they
too
would be able to
honest?
make enough money from advertising that they wouldn't. No, it's very honest. That's why I asked you. I mean, you'd think that like there'd be enough advertising money to justify having a bigger audience, right? Because you can make more ad money the more people like see your stuff. I don't know. I'm just curious because like
Oh,
some of these publications like make it very difficult to get a pitch in the door, and
oh, okay.
it's
Oh,
like, well, yeah.
that it is, and it's interesting that it's hard to get in the club, but it seems like once you're in, you're in.
Oh, I'm sure. I'm sure. I mean, that's certainly how it works around here. I think that like I don't know. It it's a very interesting world, this freelance journalism world.
Yes, it
So we had
is.
a couple of topics we wanted to talk about. There's one in particular that we absolutely have to talk about on the show today.
Ah,
And that's the fact that there is apparently a Del Taco in
ah.
San Diego, which has had to reduce its in-person dining hours because the staff were being bullied by high school students. What the hell is happening in San Diego, Joe? First of all, who the hell goes to Del Taco in San Diego? Like,
I
I
do.
love Del Taco. I
I
go to
hate
Del
you.
Taco all the time here because,
I
well,
eat
not
Del
here.
Taco all the time here. Don't hate me.
I, I loved it when I was in Newport Beach and in Orange County. But
I
like,
have
if
to.
you're in San Diego proper, you got to like make a mistake not to get good Mexican food.
Yeah, but okay, chef. When you eat Mexican food 3 times a week, 7 days or 3 times a day, 7 days a week, you can get back to me about me eating Taco Del Taco once a week.
We're close, dude. We're close. I'm close up here. If we had a Del Taco close by, I would eat there. My only question is like, why is it such a hangout spot that all the high school bullies
It's
go there?
cheap.
A, B, have you ever witnessed it?
No, I haven't witnessed it. I only What's interesting about that article is there's only like 2 or 3 Del Tacos that are actually the lobbies are open at. All the other like I've been to Del Taco in last year, but I have not stepped foot at Del Taco since the pandemic started
Yeah,
because all of them
most
are
fast
closed.
food has been like, forget having in-person dining. That just creates more problems and risk for us.
Yeah, exactly. What do you mean we could have done drive through this whole time? This is awesome.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. What do you mean we don't have to worry about people passing out in the bathrooms? We don't
Yeah,
have to worry about all the other things that come with it.
keeping the lobbies clean 24/7. A
I
lot of stuff.
I remember like back when I was training for that big swim
Yep.
back in 2015,
Yep.
getting out, going up to like I did like a really long swim first thing in the morning, got out, went up, got breakfast at Carl's Jr. in Pacific Grove. Anyone who's ever been there knows the
Yep.
one I'm talking about. It's got this big old dining area. And I fell asleep and somebody woke me up and they were like, "Sir, I'm sorry. I know you don't have anywhere else to go, but I need you to leave." And I was like, was I that is that the vibe that I'm giving off right now? I mean, apparently that was the vibe I was giving off at the
You
time, but
you did have a beard and a little hair, so then you weren't like all completely like clean shaven.
that's
So
fair.
you know, I can understand if you had just crawled out of the ocean and smelled like low tide. That maybe you're just like, oh, maybe he is
I
homeless.
didn't think about that part. Yeah, I
I
might
don't
still stink a little
I don't
bit.
know.
Lover's Point wasn't always clean.
Maybe I just get mistaken as a homeless man all the time. That I'm just very used to it now. I just say thank you.
Okay, that reminds me. We have to tell the audience this story. So I fly down because I'm going to cover the ASL event. I'm trying to like freelance some stories, but I'm also there because One More Wave is doing an event with the Womp, right? We'll tell the Womp story another day because that's like its own that's its own creator hell to tell the world about. But Joe's like, "Dude, when you land, let me know." And I'm like, "No, don't worry, Joe. I have a rental car. I'll be fine. I booked a cheap rental car, right? It's at the airport." And Joe goes, "I don't think it is. They moved all rental cars off of San Diego." I was like, "Nope, this one says it's in the terminal." Joe's like, "I think you're completely out of your mind, but whatever." Long story short, I land. Joe is wrong. Okay. The station is in the terminal. It's just not this airport. It's in an airport that's like on the other side of San Diego, right on the border
Uh,
of Mexico, that
yeah,
has like one landing strip.
it's 30 miles away from San Diego International Airport, and I'm pretty sure it's like an $80 like Uber ride, probably.
It was more than like the cost of the rental car to get there and to get back, because you have to factor in the return costs as well. Long story short, Joe gives me directions to take a cab, to take a train. I hop in a cab, and that, oh my God, quick little digression. I get a ride from a survivalist Ukrainian who like starts talking to me about the merits of like making your own ammunition, different types of like long-term storable foods, and then warns me about the evils of Putin before he drops me off at this train station.
Hey, he's not wrong.
Joke is
he's not wrong.
He's not wrong about any of these things. I'm not disagreeing with any of it. I like contact Joe, and Joe goes, "Hey man, I know you're having a tough day because it's been a little stressful trying to navigate everything." Because I walked around San Diego Airport for a good 25 minutes, convinced I was going to find this place. And Joe goes, "I know you're hungry. When you arrive in Oceanside," which I have never been to before, "when you arrive in Oceanside, I will be waiting for you with food." Great.
And I think I even quoted that, "I will be right there when you get off the train on the landing. I'll be right there. I should be on the right platform."
Yep, I'll be standing there waiting for you. I will wave to you. I was like, great. I get on the Surf Rider, which is the name of the train. First of all, it's like lovely, except for the heroin addict who's like in and out of the bathroom the whole time. And oh my God, I'll push this story off for another when I tell the whole story. Long story short, I get off the train in Oceanside. I get off, I look to the right.
It's like a 45-minute ride from like Old Town into Oceanside. So you were on the train for a minute.
Yes, and I was hungry. I was so hungry that like, I wasn't really thinking.
This was like 4 hours after you landed, and you hadn't eaten yet. Just so people have time.
I had planned to meet up with you within an hour, and it's now been 4 hours.
I remember when I got off the phone with you, and Jose's like, "What?" I go, "We're not seeing Shep till fucking dinner." He's like, "Oh fuck." I go, "Yeah, I know he doesn't know this yet, but we're not seeing Shep till fucking dinner."
Oh, it's brutal. So I get off. I turn to the right. I see Joe waving to me, holding a burrito, like wildly waving to me. And I go, okay, that's a little much, but that's cool. I start walking towards him, get within 10 feet, realize that is not Joe. That is a homeless person. That is not a burrito. That is, I'm hoping, garbage that he's like cradling in his arm. And now I've waved back to this man and given him the, "Hey, what's up, dude? Good to see ya." So I turn.
So what do? Abandon ship, pull red?
I about faced and booked it the other direction and immediately saw you like 200 yards down the platform. Now I have not Joe, who still thinks that I'm like, he thinks that he's found his way. If you've never been to Oceanside before, you will understand. There is like, it's like San Francisco-esque level homelessness.
Let me describe the elevators in the parking garage for the train station, that they have the utter deep hiss in them because people literally stand in them and do circles while peeing. And I say this because I can see the marking on the floor. And unfortunately, when you're in a wheelchair, you kind of just roll with what you got. But yeah, that place is fucking rough. And there's probably shit on the floor too. We were just trying to ignore that.
Yeah, so long story short, when Joe says he's been mistaken for homeless before, even his close friends sometimes.
That's how I know, win it in life.
I really thought it was you, dude. He had the beard, everything, and he was so confident when he waved to me. I was like, well, that's got to be Joe. I mean, who else? Who else would make eye contact with me and be like, "Oh, you're the reason I'm here"? Like,
obviously, that guy did.
Yeah. Well, I'm really excited for you to get up here. I'm excited to record some stuff. We had a couple other topics we were going to talk about, but we'll save those for another day. We're right around the 54-minute mark, so it was good to catch up. Is there anything you wanted to get in there? I mean, I did want to like put it out there that one of the reasons that Coastal Athlete Program is coming back, and if you've listened for this long in the show, then you're one of the true hardcores. You either care quite a bit for me, for Joe, or the content we've been creating and releasing for free for years. And we came back because we want and need your support to help keep One More Wave on mission, right? There's only one nonprofit in this space that goes through the 27 steps of developing that custom piece of adaptive surfing equipment for these riders. And for us to keep going, we need your support. So, Joe, I'll turn this over to you because you're so much of a voice of One More Wave, and you've been so much of where the rubber meets the road for so long in terms of helping people. Can you just kind of tell the audience a little bit about where their donations go?
Yeah, for our riders, what we equip them with is specialized surf craft that they need so that way they can utilize it and actually engage in what we call surf therapy. For some people, that's just normal, what you would think as surfing, which is standing up on a surfboard. There's also other ways to ride different waves and to surf and ride different kinds of surf craft. So there are some riders that just ride different things. Jose is a good example. He's a prone rider, and his surfboards are very specialized. But the nice thing with One More Wave is we don't just equip a veteran with a board. We make sure that veteran has a board with wax and a leash and fins on the board. So that way the veteran can literally take that piece of surf equipment and go straight into the surf with it. Then the next thing
and a wetsuit.
Wetsuit, yeah. If they're in an area where they need a wetsuit, that's something else we support them with. So, you're looking at not just a $800,000 surfboard, $1,000 surfboard. You're actually looking at probably like $2,700, $2,500 for per rider just to get them fully equipped. And that doesn't even start with artwork and some of the extra things that can come along sometimes with special projects that we do. Another nice thing is we also equip a lot of beginners with everything they need. So there are some surfers that are just new into the game, and we get them proper equipment so we can send them off to get them started on the right foot and get them in their first year or two of surfing until they can progress to better surf craft. When that happens, then we discuss that with them. But we just kind of customize it for what the rider needs and what they're actually going to utilize. So sometimes that's even wake surfing. We've supported wake surfing in the past, and we have some groups
The Texas group.
Yeah, I was gonna say we have a couple groups that still get together, and Texas is the big one. Yeah, and they go out wake surfing all the time, and I think they even have a championship every year too, or something like that. So, yeah, it's really amazing.
Those guys go hard, dude.
Yeah, and it's really cool.
That team goes so hard.
Yeah, they go hard on a whole different level. That's a good way to describe it. And it's not even just that type of stuff too. It's even the body surfers. If you're just a body surfer, there's even ways for us to support you with that, with fins and wetsuits and stuff like that. So yeah, it's really just getting the veterans to engage in surf therapy. So instead of surviving through life, they're really thriving through life. Is the idea.
Yeah, and from the administrative side of the house, because one thing that's really cool is Joe is very much on the operations side of One More Wave, and I'm very much on the administrative side. We're trying to come up with creative ways to raise money, right? And there's ways that people can participate in our digital open surf contest. That
we haven't talked about that
we
at
should
all
probably
yet.
Yeah. I just realized
why have we
haven't
talked
talked
about the surf contest that
we should probably
right
do a whole different episode to talk about the digital open and surf contest. In fact, if you're listening this far, tell us if you want us to come back to weekly shows. That's very ambitious, but I don't know. Joe, your audio sounds so much better now that you have your hair in a ponytail and you're not wearing the typical Apple thing anymore. Like your audio's been dialed this whole time.
But I stepped my game up with those Bose headsets that year or two ago, so they've been holding up tough for me, which has been good.
Well, I appreciate the hell out of it. But from an administrative side, one thing that I find really interesting is I get to see on social media and things like that the long far reach of the stuff that we're doing, and I get to see some of the way that civilians respond and some of the ways that families reach out and reach back and talk about what we've done for vets. And I just want our audience to know this isn't superfluous. Like, One More Wave is the kind of nonprofit that you can believe in. And in this day and age, it's really important that we put our money where our mouth is when it comes to supporting organizations that support missions that we're passionate about. And I speak for Joe. I speak for myself. We did not come to One More Wave to get rich. we're not here on Amazon, Google salaries. We're here because we really, really care about what we do, and we care about the people that we work with. And if you're listening to the show and you've been listening to the show, you probably care about us. So When you have to choose a place to put your money this year when it comes to supporting nonprofits, please support us at onemorewave.com/donate and shop at our store at 1mwave.com. Nice and tidy. Look at that. Web information. Cool. Joe, closing thoughts, parting shots. You got anything that we need to get to? You want to tease anything for next episode? Like I'll tell you right now, I think it's appropriate. Like, I'm wearing yuccas. The last time we recorded a podcast, I was not wearing yuccas every day, I don't think. That's pretty exciting. I'm using, we haven't even talked about gear. You and I have to talk about wetsuits. I think you're bringing up a wetsuit to potentially lend me when I see you potentially in a couple of days, because I have big holes in the 2 wetsuits that I wear. And while it doesn't bother me now, I know that once we get to the sub 50 degree point, it's probably going to make it a little bit less comfortable out there. So got to plan ahead. The time to work on the roof is not in the middle of the storm.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we'll have people comment below if they want to hear Joe and Shep talk about more gear.
Yeah, comment, like us, do whatever it is that you can do. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Thank you for listening to Coastal Athlete Program. Go into iTunes, leave us a review, write down a few words, comment on our posts, save our posts, do whatever you can to support the organization. On behalf of Joe, myself, Posey, Tuck, our wives, everybody here at the Coastal Athlete Program, especially big shout out to now Mustang officer Alicia Pizarro. Woo woo!
Yeah,
congratulations, buddy. Sheesh, Cap alumni. We'll see you guys next time.